Hi, I'm Fran Drescher, and all of us at Cancer Schmancer are so excited to bring you our Health and Wellness Masterclass, absolutely free. Do you ever wonder why you get sick, what causes cancer, and how you can reduce you and your family's risk? Well, we've put a lot of time, energy, and passion into bringing you the most cutting-edge information from amazing doctors who think outside of the box, leaders in health and wellness with a fresh perspective on what we can do for ourselves, options to consider when diagnosed, and new strategies to not only survive, but thrive. I have made improving our health my life's mission because I am a cancer survivor. But it took me 2 years and 8 doctors to get a proper diagnosis. Thank goodness I had a slow-growing cancer, or my outcome might not have been so good. Now I have turned my pain into purpose, so I'm committed to sharing everything I've learned with you. All the brilliant doctors and scientists I have met over my nearly 2 decades of survival. That's why I'm bringing you this master class so you won't have to go through what I did. Watching this free health and wellness masterclass, I hope you will feel more empowered and less helpless and walk away with a game plan. With 1 in 2 men and 1 in 3 women expected to get cancer, babies being born pre-polluted with 200 to 300 chemicals found in the umbilical cord, and kids predicted to not live as long as their parents for the first time in U.S. history, the time is now to take control of your body. I'm thrilled you're here, and I know it will make a difference. Now grab a pen and notepad, because we're about to blow your mind. Thank you so much for being a part of our journey of wellness. I want to move on because I am so excited about that. By the way, your lunch is all organic, thanks to Patina. So enjoy it, eat it in good health, and be grateful while you're eating, and taste it, and digest it, and be connected to your food while you're enjoying it. Now this guy he's an absolute genius. And he wasn't supposed to come on during the lunch because I really want you to pay attention to him. He is one of the very few triple board certified doctors in the entire United States. He is an absolute expert on gut health, how it's affecting our brain, the foods that we are eating that are poisoning us with pesticides and herbicides, how that is impacting our gut, and what we can do about it, because so many of our health issues that are chronic, that are plaguing us, that are, the reason why there are those plethoras of pharmaceutical commercials on TV to suppress this symptom or that symptom, but nothing is talking about why this is happening or how we can stop it. Why? Because it might cut into somebody's profit margin. And this leads back to being an informed consumer. So I want you to please give, and promise me you're going to pay attention to this guy. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Zachary Bush. Thank you so much.
If you start to get distracted, I'm going to take my clothes off and make sure you pay attention. All right. Very glad to be here with all of you. It's an extraordinary moment in human history that we're all a part of, and it's an extraordinary moment to realize that you are an integral piece of that puzzle. Are my slides up, and you have those up there? Okay, quick disclaimer here is that everything that I'm about to say is going to sound like I'm a genius, and somebody already said that that was the case, and I'm going to tell you that nobody's really a genius until they have 40 people behind them. And this is my team up in the corner, my science team, a few PhDs and a master's in public health there from Hopkins, so brilliant team around all of this information that you're going to get today. But my other acknowledgement is not so much the people that are behind me and my science and everything else. It's about you guys and what's going on that table that you're at right now. There are 7 billion people in the world right now. That is a number that none of us can really comprehend. There's a lot of people in the world that are concerned that's too high of a number. Maybe that's an unsustainable number of human beings on the planet. But I would have you shift that for a moment and realize that there are 7 billion souls on the earth. That's a different equation. Souls don't mess up. I don't believe that souls accidentally show up in an accidental pregnancy. I think souls are super intentional. I think souls have a really good sense of not only why they showed up, but what they're going to do when they do show up. There are 7 billion souls, and right now we have an epicenter of souls in this room that are focused on one thing, which is health, which is coming through the food that's on your plate. That means we're creating an epicenter of change right now by being in community, by being in tribe. That meditation we did this morning, can you imagine the energetic shift that happened on planet Earth when this many well-intentioned people took silence together? It's such a powerful thing. So do take silence during your meal and be appreciative of the fact that you are here with great purpose. And I think that all of us, as we come into community, are going to have a much better sense of what we're capable of. I think we have untapped wisdom and capacity, and the reason you showed up here has got something to do with you wanting to know more information. And if you want to know more information, then it means you have not quite fulfilled all of the niches of your purpose. If you are already done, you'd be out on the beach and you'd be ignoring everything else, but you're not. You're spending a beautiful day in Southern California in a room listening to a bunch of people because you are energized, you are purposeful in your intention, and I celebrate that, and I'm glad to be among you. We are here for great purpose. I'm going to shift the idea here that cancer is something that happens to humans. This is an extraordinary study that started to change this vastly in my world. I used to design chemotherapy at the University of Virginia, and so I come from the dark side of this. I'm slowly buying my way out of purgatory. I appreciate you being a part of that. If you want to cast a vote at the end of this, I would also appreciate that. But honestly, we have a huge misperception in academia as to what cancer is. And this is really rapidly changing now. It's taken almost 10 years of this data to come out. But this is a profound study that just got published a couple years ago in 2014 that was one of the first to biopsy the healthy breast and the diseased breast in women with breast cancer. And they weren't looking at the human cells. For the first time, they were looking at bacterial DNA, perhaps the existence of bacteria in that breast. Has anybody been told that there's bacteria on your skin? Bacteria in your colon? Bacteria in your breast? No. As a physician who was designing chemotherapy, seeing a bunch of this, never told that there should be bacteria in the breast. But what we know today is there should be bacteria in the breast. In fact, it should be a very specific bacteria. And so this study demonstrated that a very specific bacteria that is called Sphingomonas is in the enriched healthy tissue of the woman without breast cancer. And then you turn to her other breast that has cancer in it. It has a different bacteria there. It's Methylobacterium. And so it was the first study to show, oh my gosh, cancer has something to do with the ecosystem around the human cells. This was a profound shift. And immediately the questions were, well, maybe that Methylobacterium is causing the cancer. Maybe cancer is actually an infectious disease, which there's been books written about. There's been all kinds of theorems about. But this same study disproved that in the same breath because they went on to compare the amount of that bacteria in the breast compared to the aggressiveness of the breast cancer. And what they found was that the more aggressive the breast cancer, the more fatal it was, the more sterile it was. The less bacteria were present. And so what it shows is that as a human breast starts to get stressed and starts to get inflamed, it starts to develop an acidic environment where the garden is changing. You have to have the Methylobacterium move in because your healthy Sphingomonas can no longer be there. And so it's the first sign of a problem when the bacteria have to shift and deal with the acidity and the stress that's in your body. As the environment continues to get more and more toxic because you haven't gotten in touch with self, you haven't gotten to that core mission yet. You're running in friction to your purpose. You're running into a lack of self-love. You're running into that lack of sense of flow in your life. You've got friction, and if that doesn't get fixed, it gets worse and worse, and the bacteria, even the Methylobacterium, can't live there anymore. And as you become sterile, those human cells become more and more aggressively cancerous, and they can kill you. And so the reality that we're seeing is that a healthy human breast, a healthy human colon, a healthy human pancreas, doesn't matter which organ we're talking about, should be a thriving organic environment where there's biome, there's ecosystem around those human cells taking care of those cells. And as we start to wipe out the bacteria and we get these sterile deserts going that our hospitals are a good example of, we spend so much time sterilizing our hospitals, we're losing the bacterial ecosystem, we get cancer. So it's an extraordinary look. If I'm right about this, then we should see a huge correlation between the death of cancer and the use of antibiotics. So let's take a look at that. So this is 2010. This is the prescriptions of antibiotics used in the United States. These are the doctors that are prescribing in the office. The darker the state, the more prescriptions. On the other side, you've got the cancer rates and the death from cancer. The redder the state, the more death. What do you see? A perfect state-by-state correlation as the use of antibiotics and death from cancer. Anybody been told that? No doctors have been told that. This is CDC information. The U.S. antibiotic prescription pattern was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. This is at the top of our knowledge base, and we are not being taught this at all. So let's take a look at what's happened over time. This is from 1970 to 1994 in these little pictures over here on your left. And what you're seeing there is death from cancer. And you'll notice that when we're looking at colon cancer in the top left, and you've got lung cancer on the right, and then at the bottom you've got prostate cancer. Those are the three leading causes of cancer, and you'll see all of it dominant in the Northwest and the Northeast. This is, again, CDC data, 1970, 1994, proving that voting Democratic kills you from cancer. No, not really. It showed that there was a predominance in our nutritional environment and our sun environment that was predicting this. And so we had seen this for decades and decades. Honestly, over a century, this map hadn't changed. Then you just fast forward to 2007 and 2011 and look at our death from cancer. The map literally reversed. This should be completely impossible if the American Cancer Institute is right that cancer is a genetic disease. It should be absolutely impossible to see a complete nation reverse its death from cancer pattern. And keep in mind, our cancer rates have gone up across the entire nation, but so much faster in the South. What the heck is going on down there? The antibiotic prescriptions haven't really changed. This is looking at the flat line of antibiotic prescriptions. It's pretty gross. It's 7.7 million pounds of antibiotics are prescribed by American doctors every year. That's 833 prescriptions for every 1,000 people, or 83% of humans in the United States being exposed to an antibiotic per year. And that's gross, but it's been happening for 20, 30 years without a change. That means that the doctors perhaps aren't the ones that are causing the cancer shift. Something else, there's maybe something more profound happening, and that something more profound might be another antibiotic that isn't prescribed by your doctor. This is the most ubiquitous antibiotic on the planet. It's called glyphosate. Glyphosate is the active ingredient in a chemical compound that you know as Roundup. Roundup is a weed killer. How many of us have Roundup sitting in the garage? The vast majority of Americans. We're looking at some 95% of households having some sort of exposure to this through our own practices. Lowe's, Home Depot, all the big box stores are all carrying Roundup in 1,000 different versions. Came off patent in 2007. Now every single chemical company in America makes glyphosate.
Hi, isn't this great? I'm enjoying it and I can't wait to go back and watch more. But I just wanted to take a moment to tell you that you can purchase all of these wonderful speakers as a downloadable purchase that, by the way, is a tax-deductible donation to Cancer Schmancer. You can have all these wonderful speakers at your fingertips whenever you want for reference, or share it with your friends and family. So if you click below, you can make a downloadable purchase, tax deductible for Cancer Schmancer donation, and enjoy it whenever you want. Thank you so much for subscribing, and now let's get back to more wonderful illuminating speakers.
This chemical has never been patented as a weed killer. This chemical has been patented only as an antibiotic, anti-parasite, antifungal. It touches any single cellular organism and it kills it. Profound antibiotic. And so this is the chemical, as I would argue, is the number one antibiotic that we face. Not only is it killing the bacteria and the fungi in the soil, but it's also killing it in our gut. We're getting wiped out. We are getting sterilized by the very food we eat because this is a water-soluble toxin. This gets into every bite of food we eat, and remarkably, it's now all around us. Less than 1%, less than 1,000th of 1% of the chemical sprayed on the planet right now of this glyphosate actually hits a weed. The vast majority of it is sprayed right on the crops we eat. That's why we created genetically modified crops. GMO crops were called Roundup Ready crops. Remember that? Then that got kind of a bad HR rap, so they dropped the whole Roundup Ready thing. Now they just call it GMO. GMO crops were designed simply so we could spray our food with this chemical. The vast majority of this, over 99% of it, ends up on our food, but more importantly, it ends up in our water systems. Recent EPA studies have shown that 75% of the water you are exposed to in rainfall is contaminated with glyphosate. How did it get there? It had to go through the air and evaporation, and 75% of the air samples taken by the EPA throughout the South is showing this same 75% glyphosate content. We are currently spraying an enormous amount of this content. We're over 2 billion kilograms, that's 4.5 billion pounds of this chemical being dumped into the soils of the earth right now. And we're being told that it's safe, but its crazy and amazing potential to kill single-cell life is killing us slowly, because it turns out that we can't sustain our own health. We have to rely on these bacteria for our health. The food you're eating right now, that is not for your human cells. Your human cells find that useless. There's not a single frickin' thing on your plate that your body can use. Your bacteria have to eat that up. They have to then convert that to an enormous array of micronutrients and macronutrients that then need to feed to the mitochondria that you guys saw in microscopy at a couple talks back. Those mitochondria then have to turn it into a single molecule called ATP that you run on. You are not feeding yourself right now. You are feeding your bacteria. Your bacteria are starting to lose its ecosystem. You are starting to look like a monoculture in your gut. And it's not even entirely your fault. You're not even going to the doctor. You don't like antibiotics. You've become the organic, crazy consumer that Fran wanted you to become. And yet, you're becoming a monoculture because of your environment. You're breathing this stuff, you're breathing antibiotic, it's raining on your crops, so we should all eat organic. It's the way we vote with our dollars is we buy organic food. We change the food industry, and we will continue to. It's the only hope we have of turning the tide is vote with your dollar, get the organic food, but be aware it's on that food. It's in your water. It's everywhere you got. So if I'm right, and this glyphosate is the main chemical, then we should see a huge correlation with where we spray this chemical and where we get cancer. And you'll see that that does not fit terribly well. It's not a perfect correlation here. It looks like the Midwest, especially the northern Midwest, is where the vast majority of that chemical is sprayed. And so it's not correlating perfectly with cancer health, and I don't like things that are not perfect correlations. This should not exist. But then you got to remember, this thing is water soluble. This thing is not staying at that farm where it just got sprayed. This thing is going to go into the water. And if you take a look at the Mississippi River, this is the pattern of all of the tributaries of the Mississippi River in the United States. And they go down, they collect all of that glyphosate from the whole Midwest and the north up into Montana and the rest, all the way out towards Pennsylvania and the rest. So it collects some 85 to 90% of the glyphosate we spray into a single water system and delivers it into the last 90 miles of the Mississippi. Where is that at? Louisiana, from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. You want to know where the highest cancer rates in the entire developed world right now? It's called Cancer Alley is? Wild guess. Baton Rouge to New Orleans, 90 miles, Cancer Alley. Highest cancer rates in the entire developed world, and it's because we are concentrating a single chemical, a single antibiotic that is wiping out the biome and making us vulnerable to the diseases we're seeing. And yet, in the face of all of this, our big institutions continue to tell us that cancer is a genetic disease. In fact, here's from the American Cancer Institute, cancer is the most common human genetic disease. Transition from normal cell to malignant cancer is driven by changes of the cell's DNA, also known as mutations. This is absolutely complete bunk scientifically, because you cannot have a genetic disease go epidemic. This is the rise in cancer in the United States over the last 20 years. We are rising and rising in our cancer rates. I don't know if you guys saw this statistic just come out, but we just hit 49% of American males with cancer before they die. 1 in 2. 1 in 3 women will develop cancer before they die now. We are seeing an explosion of this. Why? Because we are sterile. We do not have cellular intelligence because we are missing the ecosystem around us. Well, DNA is thought to be so important. We're so amazing because we're full of this DNA, and we are full of a lot of it. 1 meter of DNA in every single one of your cells. It's kind of amazing because each adult cell has, or each adult body has 50 trillion cells. If you multiply that out, if you strung all your DNA, just one person, all your DNA, and wrapped it around Mother Earth, how many times would one person wrap around Earth, you think? Turns out you'd wrap around, just you'd wrap around Mother Earth 4 million times. Your DNA would wrap around the center of the Earth 4 million times. You have a massive amount of DNA. That DNA, though, is 99% junk, we've been told, because only 1% of your DNA actually codes for your genes. We've been told that you're made up of genes, and that's what determines your body. But the other 99% is not human. It doesn't come from you. It doesn't code for a gene, so we've called it junk. Because obviously that's what nature does all the time, right? Nature's about 99% waste. No, nature never has got any waste. So we've got a stunning reality coming to reality here that when we look at the genomics, humans are one species with 70 trillion cells, just 20,000 genes. That's a measly genetic code. Because a flea, that little creature, 30,000 genes. So on a bad day when you can't find your keys, you just tell yourself, I'm 2/3 as complicated as the flea. I'm doing all right. I got my kids fed, nobody died today, it's a good day. We had a second conception from our mothers. We got this entirely from mom. They're called the mitochondria, not human, have their own genome. They're kind of interesting. They got 37 genes. There's 14 quadrillion of these things. We are 100,000-fold outnumbered by these mitochondria. They teem inside our cells. There's 200 mitochondria in every single human cell on average when we're born. We are full of non-human life, and we can't function without those guys. And they're first in line after the bacteria to die when we start pouring pesticides and herbicides into our environment. We start losing energy as the mitochondria die. Bacteria, take a look at their genome, 40,000 species, 1.4 quadrillion. That means there's at least 10 to 1 bacteria for every human cell. They've got 2 million genes compared to our 20,000. We are so outnumbered genomically that cancer cannot be a genetic disease. Cancer is too complicated, and it turns out that the genes that determine what we turn into, the body we build today, is not based on the humans at all. It's based on all of this other life on Earth. The numbers are truly extraordinary. If you look past the bacteria into the parasites, there's 300,000 species of parasites with 2 billion genes. There's 5 million species of fungi with 2 trillion genes. You are so grossly outnumbered. You want to know how many species of viruses? We have absolutely no idea. There's too many of them to count because there are 10 to the 31 viruses on Earth. That's 10 or a 1 with 31 zeros after it. That means there are 10 million times more viruses than are stars in the entire universe on our planet today. If these guys were against you, you'd be dead. We have been spending all of our time in medicine killing these guys only to find out this is the genetic code that makes the difference in our life. And we've now started to tease out how that is. It's through these things called microRNA. The microRNA are made from the junk DNA, the 99% of your genome, the 99% of the other genomes, which aren't making genes that make proteins, they're making on-off switches. A single gene can produce over 200 different proteins. You can then build over 4 million variations of you today. You have genes that are fixed, but they are turned on and off by these microRNA. You can literally build 4 million different variations of you today. If you feel a lot today like you did last week, it's because you didn't change anything. You have some terrible disease, you have been diagnosed with autoimmune disease, chronic fatigue, you name it, cancer, it doesn't matter. You just built a body with cancer. You have 4 million other options. You can build 4 million other bodies. You just got to change everything in your environment. And I do mean everything. You want to change everything in your environment because 15% of the on-off switches in your bloodstream right now are not from the human genome. 15% are from the bacteria that are consuming your food right now. Another 15% of the on-off switches for your genes are coming from the fungi that are around you, that you're breathing right now from these carpets, from the drywall, from these environments we live in. You are being coded by your environment. This is your gene pool. It's not human. It's the entire planet is your gene pool, and you are living in a society that is disrespecting that entire genome, and we think humans are so freaking important that we could just clearly go pave down the Garden of Eden. We can go build the high-rises. We can live in drywall boxes. We can drive in off-gassing plastic cars, and there should be no downside of that. There's a huge downside. We're disconnected from our gene pool, and our first world epidemics are getting out of control. We look at our littlest children. Autism is now 1 in 45 children. That sounds like a terrible number, but look at how terrible it was. Just in 1975, we were 1 in 5,000 children with autism. So we went from 1 in 5,000 to 1 in 45 in just 30 years in this country. If we're at this current rate, and the fastest rate of that growth has been in the last 3 years. In the last 3 years, we doubled our rates of autism in the United States of America. We're currently on target to hit 1 in 3 children with autism by the year 2035.
I'm so glad that we're watching the Fran Drescher Masterclass Health Summit together. Thank you so much for subscribing. Isn't it great? I can't wait to go back and watch more. But I just wanted to tell you that on October 23rd, we are going to be doing the Fran Drescher Masterclass Health Summit 2018. And it's going to be more exciting and better than ever. You can click below or go to cancerschmancer.org and get your tickets or watch us live streaming for free on October 23rd. But if you come in person, you'll get to meet me and some of these wonderful doctors that I promise you will rock your world.
If you don't change everything today, if I don't change everything today, we are going to die with our children. They are going to die at the same time as us. 46% of children under the age of 12 currently have a chronic disease. 46% of children have been diagnosed with a chronic disease. Compared to 1960, 4% of the entire population had a chronic disease. We are so sick, and our children are leading the band, and we have got to change everything. How are we going to change everything? We've got to get to the root of what is inflammation. Inflammation is where everything is happening. It's the whole system breaking down. What is the relationship between all these bacteria and fungi and all that to this root cause of all disease? How can they be related to this incredible thing called chronic inflammation? And so if we're going to turn that tide, we got to look at where inflammation comes from. It comes from your immune system. Your immune system makes all inflammation. It does that in reaction to too much outside. It gets exposed to the outside world. It has to keep reacting. If we look at the biggest vulnerability to that, it's in your gut. 70% of your entire immune system lies in your gut lining between your sinuses and your anus, rectum, ass, whatever you want to call it. And so we've got this incredible 2 tennis courts worth of surface area. 2 tennis courts worth of surface area is the largest membrane in your whole body. Imagine 2 tennis courts spread out, and now you're smearing all of the food you eat in a day, all the air you breathe, all the water you drink, you're smearing it all over that 2 tennis courts. But the membrane is tiny. That membrane is 15 micrometers. This means half the width of a human hair. So you have a cellophane layer that's half the width of a human hair that is covering 2 tennis courts, and you're smearing the entire world around you on that and asking it to protect your immune system. It's not working anymore. We are starting to leak across that cellophane layer. It's starting to be a breakdown of what we call tight junctions. These are Velcro-like proteins that's keeping the outside out. Your food should be intelligently absorbed across your membranes. But if you start to damage the tight junctions, the Velcro, you start to leak. You start to get stuff crossing that into your immune system that's unregulated, and your system gets quickly overwhelmed and you develop chronic inflammation. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop there. All your blood vessels tied together with the same tight junctions, the same Velcro. Your blood-brain barrier, same tight junctions, same Velcro. Same thing at the kidneys. Your detox organ is tied together with the same Velcro. What if we developed a toxin that wiped out all of the bacteria around us, which were protecting us in the first place, and then became a toxin to the tight junctions? This is our lab, work we're doing with immunohistochemistry. This is looking at the small intestine. On the control side, you're seeing healthy small intestine. You're seeing that green line. That's immunohistochemistry highlighting the tight junctions, the Velcro holding all those cells into a coherent carpet. On the other side, you see glyphosate at 20 parts per million, which is about what you would find on a conventionally grown sweet potato, beet, and turnip, 3 of my superfoods that I make all my patients eat. 20 parts per million glyphosate. Within 16 minutes, the whole membrane has fallen apart. You are now a leaky sieve. You're going to have fatigue about 2 hours after a meal because your immune system is so activated. You're going to have brain fog. You're going to be really hitting the wall on your email list, and you're going to be reaching for a stimulant. Give me some sugar, give me some caffeine, because I'm hitting the wall. I got my postprandial coma coming on. You are leaking. But this is the mercy. So far, it's just been all bad news, but Mother Earth is so good. So much grace to this stupid species that now sits on this planet. I fly all the time, like so many of you, and it's amazing to see us grow like a cancer across these dark fields at night. Our light's just creeping across. It exactly looks like the tumor crossing a microscope plane. It's uncanny how cancerous our growth is as a society because we are so detached from the normal structures of humanity, but Mother Earth is so graceful. She planned for this kind of crazy. She planned that Mother Earth was going to have to be smarter than perhaps the smartest and most insane of her species. And so what she gave us was bacteria 50 million years ago. And so what we discovered in 2012, that bacteria are taking all that food you eat and turning it into fat and sugar, protein, micronutrients, all kinds of good stuff. But we found out that those bacteria are making something cooler. Those guys are making what we now call carbon snowflakes. Every species of bacteria and fungi, 5 million species of fungi, 300,000 species of parasite, 100,000 species of bacteria are creating their own subsets of these guys. And these guys have become this foundation of what we're using in this dietary supplement that's 50-million-year-old soil. So we're drawing out of 50-million-year-old soil an intelligence from a biome that's been around since the beginning of time, before humans were there. And how it's functioning is not to do anything intentional. All it's there is to set up the wireless communication between your cells, start to give you back the intrinsic health that is natural in a human breast, that is natural in a human colon, that is natural in every system of your body, and informed through not your human system, but the bacteria and fungi. And so this is what happens when you put that into play. Suddenly the control looks a lot like the after glyphosate picture. You protect from the damage of Roundup because the ancient soil has enough of the communication network, has enough bacterial and fungi information that you don't do the damage. We've now taken this up to 20,000 times your dietary amounts of glyphosate, and you continue to do 100% protection. This is looking across that resistance. Glyphosate drops that resistance across your colon. You take the bacterial and fungi information back, you end up stronger than you were to begin with. Same with gluten. Gluten weakens that barrier system, but you take back the intelligence of a soil 50 million years old, and you have an incredible resilient barrier system. This is looking at apoptosis in normal intestines and cancer cells, and what you see is this huge ramp up of cell death in cancer cells by just getting bacteria and fungi back into the equation. It's literally changing the way we think about cancer to realize that we are programmed not just to be healthy, but we are programmed to kill the cancer cells, not by human cells, but by the bacteria and the fungi. An extraordinary story and gift. If you want to take one photograph of this gives you a day in the glance, and you're going to be smarter than every physician you're about to talk to in these next 10 years, because this picture shows you exactly the history of humans when they start to leak. That's from cradle to grave, the phenomenons that you're going to see start to unfold from age 0 to age 78, our average lifespan in the United States. That's the disease pattern as we start to leak and develop chronic inflammation. And now everybody you know fits somewhere on that scale. Maybe they're having anxiety disorder, panic attacks. You say, oh, you're just right here. You're around age 13, 15 of a typical leak pattern. We got to get that fixed. We got to get you in touch with the microbiome. So how do we create healthy bodies? We got to get more ecosystem. So number one, we need to change the system. We got to stop spraying antibiotic on every scrap of soil we have on this planet. We have to start building healthy soil, and you do that in your backyard. In 1945, we were growing 45% of our food chain in our backyard victory gardens. Now we grow less than 1,000th of 1% in our backyard gardens. We can get real pissed off at Monsanto and the chemical companies, but you and I created them. We outsourced our food. We stopped growing the food. And so somebody stepped up to do that for us. We are responsible for that mess. We are birthing 47% of our children by C-section, which is a sterile procedure. And guess whose bacteria that baby's going to inherit? Not mom's vaginal canal anymore. Hospital. What if 47% of our children are inheriting hospital flora instead of mom's flora? What would their immune system look like? It'd be a disaster. They'd be leaking by the time they're 3 days old. We have to avoid antibiotics in our food and from our physicians as well. We need to start breathing through our nose new ecosystems. It's interesting to realize most of your ecosystem is not from the food you eat, it's from the air you breathe. If you feel like your health is monotonous and going downhill, you are breathing the wrong environment. All you have to do is shift it up. So get a mountain bike, get outside, get out in the woods, go to a waterfall, go to the ocean side, breathe as many ecosystems as you can, and that Mother Nature is graceful. You have heard miracles of healing happen on this stage today. It's because she is full of grace. And she wants you to thrive. I want you to thrive. I want to thrive, and more than that, I want your children and my children to thrive, and we've got to get reconnected. Weed your garden with your hands. When did we decide we had to spray chemicals? We didn't have to bend down to pull those weeds. Weed those gardens, and when you touch the earth and you touch that food again, your relationship to the food changes. Your gratitude level changes. Your sense of appreciation for Mother Earth's provision for you personally, because you're important. You came with purpose right now, at the brink. We're either going to survive or we're going to die together. Right now, it's looking like by 2035, we're going to die together. We can't sustain the level of chronic disease that's about to hit us. But we can change everything together. We can do it completely differently together, and that's why you're here. And so you are all thought leaders, you're all mobilizers, you're all motivators, and I'm here to just give you some more information to make you more powerful. Stand barefoot on the soil. When was the last time you felt grass between your toes? It's magic. You get extra credit for nakedness, all right? Get as much of your clothes off as often as possible. All right, this is incredibly good reality TV for Southern California. Let's get it going. We should be eating fermented foods again. We did this through all human history until we developed refrigeration. Then we stopped. Most of all, we should be hugging, kissing, and generally celebrating every human, animal, plant that we can touch. So I would encourage you to end this talk with me right now by standing up and give somebody right next to you a huge hug. Not a wimpy hug. I want a huge frickin' hug. Because we are all together in this, and we got to change everything.
Oh my God! Oh, you amazing! I love you. Oh my God!
Look at all your people.
Look at this group! Look how sweet everyone is.
Look at that.
Yeah. Aw. Oh, I swear this man is better than porn. I think I had an orgasm over there. I love what he has to say. Oh, I adore you, God.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Give a hand to this man. Today, now, start changing the way you live. Think about everything. Don't kid yourself. Don't think you're going to get away with it. You're not. It's going to catch up with you. The jig is up. It's unsustainable. We had to be taught to be a throwaway society. We had to be taught to use plastic. We had to be taught to be dumbed down and numbed up so that all we think about is taking away the symptom and not questioning what is the cause. What are we doing wrong? And who are we empowering? And do they give a shit about us? No. You have to. You hold all the cards. Stop buying the crap. Hi, it's me, your host, Fran Drescher. Thank you so much for watching. Wasn't that great? Now you have some tools to stay healthy and prevent disease, as well as fresh options to consider if, God forbid, you are sick. Cancer Schmancer's mission is to educate you and your loved ones on how to transform from patient into medical consumer. If you enjoyed this, if you learned something, if you want to know more, then please make sure you watch Fran Drescher's Health and Wellness Masterclass 2018, live streaming free on October 23rd at cancerschmancer.org. Please help us get this life-changing information out to as many people as possible so together we can all move into a healthier world. Share this with your friends and family. It's 100% free, so there's no downside. Remember, each one teach one. Please visit cancerschmancer.org to learn about our life-saving programs like Fran Vans, offering low-income women free mammograms, and Be the Change program, targeting teens and tweens on staying healthy by checking labels, choosing safer products, and becoming the change the 21st century desperately needs. So happy that we had this time together and so grateful for your helping to spread the word so we can empower more people like yourself to crack the code on sickness. I love you. My prayers are for you to be well and have love and peace in your hearts.